um, an Instagram, and let's have a good show. Whoops, hang on. There we go. Okay. Hi, and welcome to Transparent with Tina, another episode. Hope you guys are all doing well. I have an amazing guest today. I like to think of all my guests as amazing, but
To
this one I
Transparent with Tina, another
particularly relate to.
episode.
When
Hope you
this
guys
is
are
our first
all
time meeting
doing
today in
well.
person,
I
or not in
have
person,
an
on Zoom.
amazing guest today. I like to think of all my
Online,
guests
I
as
should
amazing,
say.
but
We were on Zoom earlier. Now we're
this
on
one I
StreamYard, and we're also on
particularly relate to.
Instagram.
When
So
this is our first time meeting today
I'm
in
waiting for
person,
her.
or not in person,
I
on
got
Zoom.
I got a couple requests. I hope that.
Online,
Yep,
I should
there you
say.
are.
We were on Zoom earlier. Now we're on StreamYard, and we're also on
Let's
Instagram.
wait to bring her
So
on.
I'm waiting for her. I got a couple requests. I hope that. Yep.
There she is. Hey, we did it.
We did it.
We did it. I can't believe it. All these technical, and neither one of us are techie. And, this is like the fourth time we've done this with the StreamYard. So we're actually on IG Live, and we're also live on Facebook, on my end, Facebook, LinkedIn. So yeah, we've got two cameras going here, and I'm just so excited to have you here. Let me tell our viewers and listeners who you are. Okay. You are known as Coach Dar. Your name is Darlene Santor. You're an author, licensed and board
certified occupational therapist,
sought after motivational speaker, former Phoenix Suns mental skills coach, plus a leadership and mental edge coach to professional athletes, CEOs, and business leaders all around the world. You're also United States ambassador for the Global Pay It Forward Day initiative, driven by the belief that raising the bar includes acts of kindness that leave every person and every place we encounter better than when we found them. And I love that. I want to talk about that later too. You also been honored by the WNBA with the Most Inspiring Woman Award, was named a trailblazer in Phoenix by Voyager Phoenix, and received a 2022 Diamond Award for coaching excellence in the professional sports, and was recently honored with the 100 Women to Know Across America Award. Fantastic. That's 3 pages. Now, granted, I can't read. Even with my glasses, the font's this big. So listen, before we get into talking about your book and everything else, let's hear a little bit about your backstory. You were an occupational therapist, and how did you get from occupational therapist to a mental edge and leadership coach?
Basically, depending on which area of medicine you want to go in, just like a doctor, I chose neuroscience. So I joke around. I have this brain model on my desk. I have coasters. Like, the study of the brain is my passion. And so I went from working in the hospital, taking care of traumatic brain injured patients, stroke, traumatic brain injury. And I did that for years. Then I went back to school for business. And then 2008, I felt very called when the world was hitting its recession and people were losing their money and their jobs and their home, and they were honestly having the hardest time. I thought, wait a minute, all of this is your mindset. If I help people with half of their mental faculties removed, I can help you or I get through this. And so that's when I started my practice. And what people see me now as a mental skills coach, I'm still a trained licensed therapist helping people in their occupation. So whether that's on the court, the boardroom, the locker room, it doesn't matter to me, to help them have the mental edge so that they could do what they need to.
Oh, so I'm putting this together now because I did not put that together. So this is kind of like a graduation. It was a gradual step forward in what you were already doing, right?
Yeah, it's really pioneering. It's taking what we're doing and moving it into an area, especially sports in the boardroom. It just wasn't brought in there. And there's executive coaching, which I do. It's just done in a different way where I mix science, psychology, and leadership together.
Exactly. And I just got my certification to be a flow coach. And you talk about that a lot in your book. So are you using the term, you use those practices, the breathing and the movement and everything else in everything?
Everything.
Okay. And this is a little out of order, but do you use somatic therapy too? Okay. Because that's a little bit, that's like the next step of the flow. So that's amazing. So your story is pretty amazing. You had quite a few setbacks, and I'm going to go ahead and read those. First thing you had was a stroke. Then you were told you couldn't have children. Then you got a divorce. Then you had your second stroke. Then you had your third stroke. Then the insurance would not cover the rehabilitation. You had no speaking gigs at that time to help pay for your medical bills. Your mother passed away, and then your father passed away. Now, let me ask you a question. How long of a period was this?
Years old when I had my first stroke to my father just passing away last year, and I'm 47 right now. From 25 to 47, that's the span of all of that, and 3 strokes in between that.
Okay, so you know what? I was listening to you on another interview today, and
because I was like, why is she having all these strokes? I mean, it blew my mind. And to be honest with you, I don't think I'll ever go to a chiropractor again. So, do you want to share what happened?
Yeah. So there was taking care of patients in the hospital, stroke and brain injury patients. And
It was painful. Nothing was working. So I had gone to the chiropractor. When I went to the chiropractor, I went in, and when they adjusted my neck, they ripped the artery to my brain, the vertebral artery. So I didn't know, Tina, that I was bleeding in my brain at that time. And I went home, and because it was a slow bleed, by the time the blood occluded all supply to the back of my left side of my brain, that's when I started to have all the neurological symptoms. And I have very good friends that are chiropractors, and I work with chiropractors with the clients that I work with. I will never have my neck manipulated because it is a risk, especially for women. But I've had men that have passed away because of this. So it is a risk that you can tear an artery because it is a very fast moving, jarring. And the doctor had said to me before I figured this out, because they misdiagnosed me at first when I went to the hospital, and they told me I have a tumor behind my head when actually it was a blood clot. So they misdiagnosed me. And when I found my own private neurologist, he said, Dar, did you get into an accident or anything? And I said, don't you think I would know if I did? And he's like, anything jarring to your neck? And I go, oh, I went to the chiropractor, and his face just looked at me, and he goes, I think they ripped the artery to your brain. And I went right in for another scan, and sure enough, he found it. And he's like, you have a blood clot left in your brain now that if this dislodges any day, you could die. And that's how that whole journey started.
So they can't get rid of the blood clot? This is something that you will have for the rest of your life?
A lot of it has been, I pray, dissolved over time and scar tissues around it. But there's narrowing of space in that area. That's where I have trouble with blood flow.
Interesting. Oh my God, I've got shivers right now.
Yeah. And the hardest part
First of all, intuitively, I've always felt that about chiropractors. I dated one of the most predominant chiropractors in the country, and I always had that feeling whenever because it's violent.
Yes.
When they manipulate you, it's violent. And I was misdiagnosed. I had an injury in Pilates actually, and I went and they misdiagnosed me. I had a complete tear from my Achilles, and she said, "Oh no, you'll be on your, you don't need a boot. You just need a brace, and you'll be fine in 6 weeks." 6 months later, I go to the orthopedic surgeon. He's like, "Well, they misdiagnosed you." So, here I am, 16 months later, and I still have a limp. So it's a very, very slow recovery. That's nothing compared to like what you've been through. So, and to pay your medical bills, you couldn't afford them. So you did your own rehabilitation, which I don't believe in coincidences. I think that was such a God thing that you would know
What to
how
do.
to rehab yourself.
Yes, especially by the third stroke, which was just a few years ago. And I remember going into the hospital and they said, Dar, we don't take your insurance. And I was like, well, I'm in the stroke unit. I'm not sure what you'd like me to do. And then after a few days, it's, you know, this is the toughest thing about healthcare. I'm sitting in the hospital and I used to run healthcare. And I thought, I have to decide right now, do I just discharge out and do all my own rehab? Because it's just racking up the bills. And they're just, I was like, I'm not going to sit here and do therapy that they're not going to cover. So I discharged after being there for a few days and I did all my own rehab that summer.
Wow, that's amazing. And you are like true description of resilient. I mean, and you got a divorce, and in your book you talk about this. The second one I said was you were told you couldn't have children, which is led to the divorce, correct? Because you both wanted children.
We did.
Then you found out, I think it was after this third stroke, that they said, oh, you were given wrong information again.
Yes.
You
And
actually could have had children.
the irony of that is I was in the middle of writing the chapter for The Art of Bouncing Back, reframing setbacks, when I started to get a migraine. And I go to the neurologist, and it's a new neurologist by this point because now that was just last year. And when I sit down with the neurologist, he says to me, as he's taking all my history and everything, he says, Dar, did you say you thought you could have children? And I said to him, it's not that I thought I couldn't. I was told I couldn't. And he said, I am so sorry. He said, I think all this time you could have children. And I said, you have to give me a minute to process that, because I have been avoiding, you know, really great people that I met in my life, obviously from my marriage to great people.
Right, so you purposely shied away from men that wanted children.
Yeah, if they wanted a family, I didn't want to hold them up. So I stayed single so that I didn't hurt anyone, you know, hold up anyone's life, because I knew they wanted a family. And then when the doctor tells me this, so I got in the car and I had to go coach some players that I work with. And I sat there and I said, well, isn't this ironic? I'm writing the chapter Reframing Setbacks right now. And so the reframe that I came to was, I live by this. If it was supposed to be, it would have. And number two, I've been able to help over 100,000 people around the world that I might not have been able to had I had a family.
Had children, because you wouldn't have had the time to. Your life would have taken a completely
Right.
different direction. And I completely agree with that. That's how I live my life. I
Yeah.
believe everything happens for a reason. It's funny. My son, I've taught him that since he was little. So now if something, and I don't follow my own advice, he goes, well, he said everything happens for a reason.
Thank you.
Like, you know, that's very interesting. You said that you were in the process. Yeah, I'm telling you, we have a lot in common. So I wrote my first book called The Domino Effect, Fear versus Faith. And I just gotten done with it. I'd sent it to the editor, and then I found out that I had breast cancer. And so I had them give me the book back so I could actually put it in the book. But same thing. It's Fear versus Faith is the name of the book. Domino Effect, Fear versus Faith. So it's like, it's like the mirror.
Absolutely.
Okay, are you going to write about this, or are you actually going to practice this? I mean, God is the universe, whatever you want to call, is always giving us opportunities.
Yes.
To prove our growth, right? And to stand behind what we say. Because, you know, it's so easy to say everything happens for a reason when everything's going great. It's when it's not. But here's the thing that I've learned. I'm going to take that back. When things are, because even when they don't appear, because it's appear to be going great, like getting cancer, like you having your stroke or this or that, it's really a choice of how you're going to look at it. And that's
right.
what your book is about. It's a lot about that. So you say that there are two things that make it possible for you to bounce back, and they are knowing your why and controlling your environment. So let's get into that a little bit.
Knowing your why was the thing that got me through, especially the last stroke. Well, everything. And I call this why power over willpower, because here's the thing. Your will, so let's just take it for exercise. Your willpower is going to give up. One morning, you're going to be like, I want to stay in bed. I don't want to get up. You hit snooze. Your will breaks after time, but your why power is what sustains you. Why are you getting up to go out, work out? Why are you getting up, to go run your company or be an entrepreneur or take that risk? Why? Why are you getting up and facing this adversity again and again? So my why is to awaken greatness. I know with everything in me. My mentor helped me this years ago when she's like, Dar, why? And I call this your 30 for 30 in the making. Right now, everyone has a 30 for 30 in the making, and it's going to have a theme to it. And that theme tends to lend to your why. Why? Why do you do what you do? Which is a core value, which is an anthem. So when I gave my mother and father's eulogy when they passed away, I said, I just recited their 30 for 30. This is their episode. This is their whole life. And their theme was this. We all have a theme that we're living for. You could create it because you have the pen, or you could let someone else create it for you.
Exactly. That's what in my book, I call it.
Basically, you're saying intentional. And I think the thing that if everybody understood this, I always tell my clients, lean into the challenge. First of all, it's going to take a lot less time to get through. And lean into it, knowing that you're going to be shot through to the other side. It's like a slingshot, right? The more you're getting pulled back, guess how much you're going to launch further. But if you resist, you're either expansive or you resist it. And if you're resistant, it's not going to make the situation go away. It's just going to make it more painful, and you're not going to be able to receive any opportunities for abundance, for example. So and if you just lean into it and you accept it, you're going to see the lesson for what it is. Because everything does happen for a reason, to bring us to our highest version of ourselves. But it gets a little scary, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you're going to be tested the whole way. You'll be tested the whole way as you do this, and it is scary. But here's the thing: when you have a why, you at least know why you're going to have that courage to keep getting up, to battle through this. If it's your will, fear is going to take over. But if it's your why, you have way more power in showing up, and you understand, because I believe for me, it's a God-driven mission. So I know why I'm doing this. It's not about me. It's literally the mission I've been called to do.
Exactly. And that's how you find it, is by going through these hardships. You start to find your why. A lot of people are probably listening going, I don't know what my why is.
Right.
What
and I
you
take
say?
them
What would you
through.
say to them? Huh?
I take, in the book, I literally take you through exactly how to find that why. You literally go through it. It's a process, and it's not something that's going to come to you in a second. It's something where you sit there and you say, if I want to stand for something, if there was one core value word, if it was one anthem on a 30 for 30, like what would this episode of my whole life be called? What do I want to be known for? So for an example I wrote in the book was one of the CEOs that I worked with, his is value. He wants to know every day, did I add value? So when he walks into his house with his wife, he said, did I add value to her life? Did I add value to my kid's life? When I walk into the corporate office and I'm about to run a meeting, am I adding value? Even when I'm standing in Starbucks, am I adding value to the persons in front of me? Because here's the thing, when you live with this intention, as you said, you show up better. And now with this intention in his head, every conversation is that much better because he's intentional, and he knows how to show up. He knows why he's showing up, and he shows up better. This is power for everyone listening.
That is amazing. I think that's going to be, I love that. If you have to boil it down into one word, because I honestly believe that's the reason we're on this planet, is to be of service to one another. And we've gotten so disconnected and so far away from that. We've all are isolating, and because what's happening in the world, it is scary. But instead of kind of coming together, a lot of people are going their own separate. I don't have time to help you. I don't have the money to help you. I can only worry about myself and my family. But it's in the giving that is the receiving. That's the way of manifesting. I wake up in the morning and say, how can I best serve today? What do you want me to do? Instead of, thinking about myself. And I think that's a step right there. And gratitude, and no offense, I feel is like that word has been so overused. It's like almost, it has meaning, but let's go on from there. Huh?
When you have gratitude, gratitude even in the pain.
This year, people kept saying to me, you always show up with this energy and this light, but it's even more. And I'm like, after losing now my father, it's been a year, and now both my parents are gone, and going through everything and getting through this process in the book, I said, I have so much gratitude for life. I am just so grateful for the day, because it's been so hard for so long that these days right now that are, I get to have health and I get to have life and I get a chance again. Like I stay in such gratitude. I do not take it for granted. And it's scientifically proven, if you could put your mindset into gratitude, you have more endorphins, you show up better, you're more fulfilled. So we know what the power of gratitude does. It's just people putting it into practice every day.
Okay, so I'm really glad that you brought that up too, about that you had so much for so long, so much trauma. What you had was trauma. And I've had a lot of trauma too. I've lost my mom, my dad, 2 brothers, and a sister. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. Then there's the cancer. And I did what you did. I wrote down a list because I never gave myself, I don't know if credit's the right word, but for getting through all of what I've got. You know, I was kind of like, well, because I was raised with a father who was like, nothing was ever enough. So this is my battle to this day, right? So it's like, well, of course you have to deal with that. But when I wrote them all down, I'm like, wow. And that kind of tipped things off for me. And I was like, I've been through, and it came out of my mouth, I've been through a lot of trauma. So my question to you is, with trauma can get stuck in your body. It's energy that gets stuck in your body. What did you do for your trauma? I mean, I don't think you can think your way out of that, you know, because these are feelings, these are emotions, this is energy that's actually in there and that's blocked. My heart chakra is blocked, and my core, which one is that, by your abdomen. So there's 2 chakras that are blocked for you. So did you do anything, or what would you suggest for something like
I'm
that?
constantly, working on everything from physical, emotional. And so I did a lot of work. I did therapy, but I also did a lot of breath work.
Yes.
I did a lot of movement work. So when you move your body, you can let it go. It's the worst thing for us to sit and be still. We could sit and be still when we need to pray or meditate, but sit and be still and never work through this. So when you do breath work, when you do movement work, when you're doing a lot of this stuff that moves things through you, you get rid of it. And then you write about it. Get it, journal it, write it, see what your feelings, move your hips. But I do a lot of exercise, do a lot of work. I do a lot of even from the cold plunge and the sauna, everything that I can, so that my whole body is detoxing what it needs to all the time.
Yes, absolutely. And the breath work, I mean, that's what got me into the Flow Coach Academy. I mean, I did 3 days of it. I went to a Danny Morell's intensive, and it just shifted. I felt lighter. I forgave, and I think anybody can do it. It doesn't cost you any money. Just go on YouTube. I mean, Wim Hof is probably one of the best facilitators out there. So, okay, so let's see. In your book, you were talking about a client that was, so we were talking about the 2 things that you can bounce back. You said one was knowing your why. The other one was your environment. Okay. So let's talk about that, because in your book, you talked about a client that was so disorganized that she never fully allowed herself to fully step away from stressors that kept her reactive instead of reflective. Let's talk about that for a minute.
So this part of the book is where I talk about the bounce back environment. People underestimate how much your environment plays into your psyche, plays into your emotions, plays into how you show up or what sets you back, what propels you forward. So that means from the people around you, the thoughts that you're putting into your mind, the sounds, the scents, the visuals. So I talk about making sure that your environment is set up. I don't even care if it's a cubicle. Make it set up so it's inspiring you, so it lifts you up. What are the sounds? Who are the people? And if you're consistently disorganized and there is clutter and chaos all around you, it is hard for your brain to optimally operate because it's chaos. Whether you're talking about feng shui or you're talking about neuroscience, guess what the common theme is? Clean up your space. Clean up your space here. Clean up your space in your mind. Clean up your space in your environment. Everything is your environment. So this client that I was helping, everything was just in disarray from them. And I said, when you start cleaning all of this up from the thoughts, from the environment, from the way you're setting, it will start cleaning up for you. But you have to make the commitment. And this is something, again, being intentional every day. You know, I have displays in my house. I have quotes, I have books, I have colors, I have things that right from when I wake up, I have my alarm that's set to a song.
Yeah, I
have-
heard about that. Yeah, I love that. I'm going to do that. I don't know how
Yes.
to do that though, but
So
maybe you
just
can tell me.
tell, I can't say it out loud because it will be, but just tell your Alexa or your Google Home or what, or your phone. You can even set it. My point is for everyone listening, if you have one of those things that you could play on your, you know, Echo or whatever it may be, Google Home, set an alarm to a song that you love. So when it goes off in the morning, which you would have forgotten, it's now something you love. So you wake up and you're automatically happy because it's a song that makes you happy versus an annoying beeping sound, right?
I totally agree. I totally agree. I've never thought about that before. I think that's an amazing idea. So because you know how you sometimes you don't wake up in the best mood, and
Right.
I'm one of those people. I'm not, you know, most of the time. It's like, oh, here we go, the loop, you know. So I've got to get to that place, you know, for like my morning routine. I've got to do meditation. I listen to sound frequency. I do cold showers every day. Really helps a lot. What you do in the morning sets up the whole day.
Win the morning, win the day.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be putting on like any electronics, email, phone, news, especially. I haven't watched news probably in 2.5 years. And I think it was Tim Ferriss who wrote in his book. If there's something that important, somebody will tell me, which is true.
Yep.
Right? Otherwise, you're just going to scare yourself half to death. All right. So you said that we were talking about this earlier too. You were saying that setbacks always have inconvenient timing. They always keep coming and they suck, but pave new roads. Now, I think everybody, I'm going to say these three things again because you know what? They are that important. They always have inconvenient timing. What does that mean? A setback's never convenient. So it doesn't matter when the timing is, it's going to be, you know, inconvenient. They always keep coming. And that's the thing that I think we think that we're going to get to a place where we're not going to have more problems anymore. We're just going to park and we've arrived and we're good. And that's where the struggle is, because then when a challenge is presented, it's like, oh God, what did I do wrong or this or that? And then you resist it and the whole thing. But if you know it's coming and you're prepared for it, like in Brandon Burchard's, his daily journal, it says, think of something that could go wrong today. And I'm like, why would he write that? So you're mentally prepared. So you're not taken off guard and to that reactive state that you were talking about instead of reflective, right? And that the setback is setting me up for a comeback. Now, that's it in a nutshell. I think
Heart monitor, and this will explain what you just said in a visual. And I wanted to see my heartbeat be really strong up and down because I knew if the heartbeat started to flatline, that was going to be obviously bad for me. I had no more life. This is an expression, and this is what I thought of while I was having my stroke. I go, oh my gosh, I have to teach this if I make it through. We want in life so much to flatline. What I mean is we don't say flatline, but we coast. I just want to coast. I want my marriage to coast, my kids' life to coast, everything to just be easy and coast. But guess what? That's flatlining.
yes.
You need the ups and downs. You need the ups and downs to get a full heartbeat of life. You will not appreciate life without the fullness of it. And that means the highs and the lows, number one. Number two is, I want you to remember, for every heartbeat down, there's a heartbeat back up. That's how our heart goes. Dun, 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 dun. That's what you need to remember. You're going to get another heartbeat, and that's going to give you life, and you're going to get back up. We just need to show up in order for that to happen. So this whole meaning of this is, yes, adversity is coming. It happens in various ways. But once you embrace the adversity and you're like, here we go, deal with it. Get ready for it. You could say that it sucks. You could say that you're mad. Of course, I don't want to have to deal with adversity. But then once you get more mentally resilient, the lows are not as low. That's why I wrote the book. I wrote the book so that your lows are not as lows anymore. Because when you get mentally resilient, You don't go in the valley as low anymore.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
get back up to the peak faster.
Faster. Exactly. And that's if you know, and it's always an opportunity for growth.
Yes.
You know, and then there's this saying that God only picks his best students for the hardest tasks,
Yes.
right? I mean, I think I know you're experiencing what you experienced, so you can help the world. You know, without going through that, I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
if
I
you
wouldn't
would-
have. It would be hard for you to listen to me talking about resilience if I never went through hardship.
If you never went through it, exactly. And you know what?
Never
There's
helped
not
anyone.
there's not one person probably that you've coached that you can't look at and go, I've been through that. Or,
Yep.
I get it. It's
I
and
say
I
to
think
people, I've either went through it or I've helped people through it. Like my whole career
Yes.
over this 27 years, I've helped. There's no one. It doesn't surprise me anytime someone brings something to me.
that's exactly how I feel. And that's why I do. That's why I'm an empath for one. I always knew I wanted to help people, but it's like and now looking back, I'm like, no wonder I've had all these life experiences and all this trauma and everything, because I'm actually moving into trauma coaching, you know, flow coaching, trauma, because it's something I can really identify with, and I know how crippling it can be. And you know, there are times where I was just like, I don't want to be here. This is just too painful. I could not find a way out, and nobody else could relate. So I think part of being a good coach is but going through a lot of challenging experiences for sure. Thank you. And I'm glad you kept going too, my new best friend. So I just want this is from your book. This is a way, I'm just going to give you guys an example of what she how she reframed. You had an NFL team during COVID lockdown, and they hired you, and you went over the following questions with them. How can the adversity of quarantine advance me? How can the pain of missing my family lead to purpose? And how can the obstacles of this season become an opportunity? So all it is turning it around, looking. So basically, this is always looking for the good in every situation. That's what we're
It's looking
reframing.
at where's their opportunity? What am I going to learn? You know, what is it? And ask yourself in the middle of it, what is the next thing that I could do? What do I need to do at this very moment? How can this help me? Or even when it's in the middle of having stroke. I'm not saying at that very instant, how could this help me? I had to obviously deal with it. But then the moment that I got to where I could sit and go, okay, it is what it is. It happened. Now, what do I do about it? Ask, what do I do about it? And then you have the answers. You have to reframe it. And then that leads to the pathway forward. The obstacle is the way. The obstacle is the way.
The obstacle is the way. And, you know, what is the lesson from this? But you know what? First reaction, if you're not aware enough, is to do the blame thing. And what I say to my clients all the time is the lesson is always yours. I don't care if it's the other person's fault. The lesson is always yours. This is an opportunity for you to grow. And once again, not be reactive, to actually be mindful about the situation. Go, how can I grow and learn from this? How can I be a better version of myself from this? Right. Okay. So let's see. I love these quotes in here. I'm committed to finding the lesson on something positive and something positive to focus on. There's no failure, only feedback. I'm stronger than my current situation. So when you talk about being in the flow, let's talk about that for a minute, because people have heard that expression. It's also known being in the zone, correct? So you know the triggers to get you back into flow, correct? Right. And that's how you help a lot of your clients. So anybody listening, if you're not clear on what that means, when you are in the flow, you have dysregulated your prefrontal cortex to be in theta alpha waves. So you slow everything down, so you're not in this chaotic mind, so you are able to make better decisions and things flow more easily. And I remember, I was always running a mile a minute, because I never felt like I was doing enough. And I had this one friend for years and years and kept, Tina, you need to slow down. You just need to slow down. And I'm like, I'm not even getting everything done at this pace. How can I slow down? I mean, it didn't make any freaking sense to me. Okay. Well, the universe slowed me down with my ankle. I also hurt my hand, and it was like all these things. And it sounds crazy, but you get more done when you slow down.
Yes.
We are in a very distracted world where
Yes.
everyone thinks quick and fast gets you the results.
Yeah.
If you look at any of the greats, it's consistency over time that could lead to greatness. People often think it's a quick fix that they could just rush through it. When you rush, you end up making more mistakes.
That's exactly it. That's
Yes.
exactly, and you're not in your authentic, you're not grounded within, you're not really tapped into your authentic self.
Right.
You're in this fight or flight mode.
Right.
You're
Right.
like, that's how, and that's why it's been so hard for me to calm my central nervous system. Thank God I found this out now, but I was always wondering why I was always on edge and always nervous. I mean, it got to the point, last couple months ago, I'd wake up on a Saturday and filled with anxiety. Like, there's nothing big going on with it. All of a sudden, if you live your life like that for so long, all of a sudden it will be involuntary. And that's no way to live.
So I just want to add is another way to help with this is to put space in between things. So when you are about to go into a meeting, the power of the pause. So pause for a second before you walk into the door to the next meeting. Pause for a second before you take that next call. Pause for a second before you walk from work into your house or before you step onto the field. Pause for a second, because when you pause, it gives you time to say, how do I want to show up to this? And it lets you be present, because people know when you've brought energy in from where you just were, and they're like, excuse me, you're not even here right now. You're still in your either last call or you're thinking about the next thing. Be where your feet are. Where your feet are is where your present moment is, and that's the thing that you could do the most with. So pause and be
absolutely.
present.
And I'm going to add on to that and maybe do a little box breathing too, because that will center you. In case you don't know what that is, it's 4 seconds in through the nose, hold it for 4 seconds, 4 seconds out through the mouth, pause, and then start it all over again. So it's amazing what it does. How did you get involved with professional athletes?
It was word of mouth over time. As my practice was growing, people started to come to me. They heard about my work, and that's how it started. It was one-on-one with individuals, and then it grew to the Phoenix Suns, coaching them as a team, and then it grew to all the leagues, NFL, NHL, it's all of them. NBA.
So this is a little side story here. Like I'm telling you, we have a lot in common. Were you coaching the Phoenix Suns when Dick Heckman owned the team?
No. Well, I mean, there was so many owners, so Dick might have been a minority owner.
Yeah. Was he? How long ago was that?
I don't know how long ago Dick owned the team.
I think it was probably maybe 5 years ago. 6 years
ago.
I
would have been there.
Would you? Okay, so this is what's interesting, because he was a friend of mine, and I said to him, you really should maybe think about having a coach for your team. He goes, oh yeah, we already have one of those. And I thought he was giving me lip service out there. He was like, yeah, sure, yeah, they need.
That was me.
And it was you. That's what I'm trying to say. This is so crazy. Hey, there are no mistakes, right? No coincidences at all.
No.
But I just thought it was so funny. Phoenix Suns. Oh my God. Okay. All right. So we talked about that. Let's see. Tell us about your mastermind.
So I have a master class that people could go on. You can go to coachstar.com. I have master class there. But what's happening is with the book and everything that's kind of been a blessing and grown abundantly over the past few years, and especially over the past year. But over all this time it's allowed me to reach so many people around the world. And I've been able to travel globally now. And so I'm going to be creating these 2-day experiences that will happen 4 times a year. So people could always go on and take, listen to the master class. There'll be courses that are constantly uploaded every year. But this experience is going to be an experience that I don't want to say too much about, but other than it's an experience that people will want to be a part of, that want to optimize, peak perform, and mentally go to another level. That will be coming out in 2024.
And it'll be 4 times a year.
It's 4 times a year.
When's the first one?
I will have that when I'm allowed to share, because we're going to do a whole unveiling.
Okay. All right. Well, you better let me know as soon as, because I want to go. I don't want to be kicked out. Okay. And your the master class on your website, Shannon was saying that there, I don't know if she ever got a promotional code for anybody listening to take the class.
If
Did
you
she?
sign up for my newsletter, if
Okay.
people go on and sign up for my newsletter on my website, they'll get the master class for free.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. And your website is CoachStar.com.
CoachStar.com. So go
Okay.
on there.
And then
when
sign
you
up for the newsletter.
It will eventually get you where you'll get my master class.
Perfect. And you recently, you have a show on Fireside too, right?
Yes, so I've had this show on Fireside, and it's a daily dose of Dar. You can listen to past episodes, and I'll be moving into 2024 into its own podcast.
Oh, fantastic. Now, do you have to be a member? Is Fireside a membership?
No, you don't have to be a member, but you have to be asked on to be a creator of it, to have your show.
No. So if I wanted to watch yours.
No, anyone could go on. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I just learned about this, I don't know, probably last month. So I'm going to go on there. And the name of your show on there?
Awakening Greatness.
What's it?
Awakening Greatness.
Awakening. No wonder.
It says Awakening Greatness, a daily dose of Dar.
You write that down. Okay. Awakening Greatness. Okay. All right. So we've got your book, and they can find your book on
You can
anywhere.
go on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. If you go to CoachStar.com, it'll tell you where you can purchase the book there. But Amazon, look for The Art of Bouncing Back, Coach Dar. But connect for those listening. Really, go on the website, because every week I put out this newsletter that I pour a lot into. That's giving you mental fuel. Every Thursday it comes out.
Oh, love it. I've got to sign up for that. I haven't signed up for that either. And just, I listened to your book. I was telling everybody that, but I actually went and bought the hard copy, because you know what? There's too many things in here. You're not going to remember all of it. So I would definitely get the hardback. If you want to listen to it too, fine, but definitely do that, because you're not going to be able to remember everything. You're going to want to go back and reference it. It's that powerful.
The thing about this book too is this is something people are hurting all over. They're going through adversity. This is easy enough to be a book. When you know someone's going through something, send this to them.
Yes.
Amazon it to their house. I wrote this for the people. This is the people's book. We so often don't know how to help people. This gives them the tools on how to handle adversity.
It's so well explained. I mean, you don't have to read forever to get a certain point. I love, and that was what I did in my book. I wanted every line to count. I didn't want to go, oh, that's what you mean.
Direct and to the point.
Exactly. That's it. All right. How about three takeaways before you leave?
Say that again.
Do you have maybe three takeaways before you leave?
I would say this. Don't put a period where they're intended to be a comma. That's the first one, because I wrote that in the book, and I want people to know that it's never really over. If you take yourself out, then it is. But it's anything that we hit is a pause in your life. It's a hold. It's a little bit of a detour, but it's not a period. It's not over until it's over, until you're called home out of here. So stay in the fight. Do not put a period where they're intended to be a comma. The next thing is you have more in you than you realize, and you have 100% bounce back rate. Anything you've ever gotten through, you've gotten through.
Yes.
Today, you have 100%. No other percentage in your life is 100%, but bouncing back is 100%. Because if you hear my voice, then you've realized that you've bounced back. So that's a stat you could rely on. And then the last thing I would say is loneliness is an epidemic right now. Yeah. Do not isolate. Be in community and connection with people. We feel like we want to be, when you're down, you feel like you want to isolate. That's not the time. It's never the time. We need people more than ever. So find people, 1, 2, 3 people that you could connect with, that you could call. I don't want you to do this life alone. You're not meant to do it alone. So be in connection with people. It's how you'll get through this.
I really needed to hear that one because I have a tendency to do that. And, because I'm such an empath, a friend of mine who's also an empath, and she's a spiritual guidance counselor, and she said, Tina, because I said, I've been feeling so lonely. Not my son, I'm an empty nester since last January. I'm still not used to it. She goes, Tina, with everything that's going on in the world, I wouldn't be surprised that you're feeling the pain of what's going on. And I'm like, didn't even think about it, the collective consciousness. So, but you're absolutely right. Isolating is not the answer. And you just fall into a depression that way. So, I've loved this every minute of it, Coach Star. You are truly amazing, and I can't wait to meet you in person. So,
Thank you so much.
yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Me too. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And we will see you all next week.
next week.
Thanks for
Thanks for
joining us.
joining us.
Bye.
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 Okay, I
Okay,
turned
turn
my
my